to contract this out to private corporations and then drop all the regulations for it, which is how you end up with a house for sexual violent predators in Tenino. Normally, this would be housed somewhere where they go through all the correct zoning, they have all the things, all the regulations have been essentially dropped on that. That's what the new legislation has led to, and that's why we're the guinea pig for it. Next question.
When was this out?
2021.
Oh, 21.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we didn't receive notification in our community about who was supposed to come in 3 days. This is who was supposed to come in 3 days. His name is Ryan James Force. And when we attended our meeting with the Green Living, they talked about how much people didn't really all doing wheelchairs and not really posing much of a threat. But he's 57 years old, and I can tell you that he went to prison for what he did to a 6-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. He was for 7.5 years for that. You can tell how much the little things he did. He has a whole list here of sexual assault against people he never met. He's a pure predator. So we have no idea about this, and he's supposed to be here in 3 days. The question I have for you is that we have information that he was already placed in an LRA, and he was sent back to jail. So that's the definition of insanity, to keep trying this and hope for a different result. He's already failed an LRA placement. Do you have any information on what caused him to be returned to McGill Island after they tried to do some more program?
I don't have any information about him already being in an LRA and being sent back. So, no, I don't have any information on that, unfortunately. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, right at the bishop, because I can do research on, so Senate Bill 5163, brought forth by the 4 women who supported it, but Christine Walsh out of the New York Coast Guard, she brought it forth because a sexual violent predator house was installed in her district without any knowledge, without 30-day notification, without anything. So there was already legislation in place prior to this 2021. It's not brand new. Prior to her trying to tweak it so that residents would have to say what's going on around them and their safety. So I'm really passionate right now because I want people to do their homework, and I want like a factual list, and I don't want partisan crap, I'm sorry to say, because you're going to lose people and get sensationalized and the facts get skewed, and you blame people that were actually trying to help. I want to listen to these senators. So that's one thing, and the other thing I want to say, I'll probably have to look it up. The second thing is, I've been thinking of alternatives. You can't try to change something that is necessary, and they have their reasons why this legislation was originally brought back. From what I understand, there were court cases where you can't hold people indefinitely until they come, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're in a double bind in the country. You want to allow people to freedom, but you want to lock the people up to be okay. Most of them may. Many of them may not. Okay, so what I want to say is if we're going to try to change legislation, which is really where we're headed, we need to present alternatives. So if you can give them information, and then I'll finish, is try to house them more near industrial areas, away from residential, try to house them near sheriff and police precincts, which I thought was a great idea. Try to house them, what was the third one? Oh, military, thank you. Military bases. Even though there's family military bases still have that kind of like, don't you dare, don't you even think about it, right? So we need to get the facts, and don't be partisan and sensationalist, please, and we need to think of viable alternatives to present to others. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't really want to comment on that because a lot of what I want to reply with to that is opinion. But I would just say that I agree that when we talk about the legislation and stuff like that, that you can't just complain about a problem, that you need to actually bring a viable solution to the table. At the same time, there's an island we can put them on. And you know, it's also really important to understand that not all sex offenders are the same. They just aren't. There are different levels to them. McNeil Island is level 3, sexually violent, worst of the worst, according to the SHS. So we're not talking about like the guy who got drunk and peed in front of a playground on accident and ended up going to McNeil Island and now he's locked up there forever. She just described someone who raped a 6-year-old boy and girl. So I think that's my initial response to that is that, does sexual assault not occur on military bases already? Do we not already have issues of women getting assaulted and sexually harassed and assaulted in the military? Like, I look at all this stuff, the police precinct is maybe a good idea, but you know where we usually place our police precincts? Next to schools.
Right.
So that when someone goes in to hurt our kids, we can run across the street. So I appreciate that, and I do agree. And I've from the beginning, I've tried to take a really balanced approach to this of like, I get it, there's a court ruling, and with the judge's rule, that's how it has to be, and the legislator has to respond to that. But I think a better alternative to contracting this out to the lowest bidder, a CEO of a company, would be to maybe just invest that money and create some specifically designed and purpose-built LRAs, go build it in the mountains of Enumclaw, wherever, right? Where you put a glass wall around it and they can gaze out into the forest and be less restricted. No, absolutely. And I'm not saying put it, I'm in Clayton, I'm sorry. No, absolutely. But what I'm saying is that you could purpose build something like this if the state actually invested the money and make it an actual facility that is less restrictive, that isn't a 5-bedroom rambler in Tenino. That's just my idea on that. So.
How about the prosecutors? Prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. Will that help if they get a longer sentence?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the prosecution is fine because they're getting convicted and whatnot, becoming sex offenders in the first place. So, that's a good question. The question was what happened. I'm going to start repeating the question because I know it's hard to hear. The question is what happened to the 3 strikes law in Washington State? I don't know.
So is it a done deal that McNeil Island is going to be emptied? Is there anything we can do to stop this? Because these offenders have already been deemed as the most likely to reoffend. And so is there anything that we can do at this point to stop this action? And my other question would be, is it...
No, hang on. I have to repeat your question. So okay. You're going with, I'm going to forget. Yeah. So the question was, is McNeil Island, is this already a done deal? Is McNeil Island being shut down? And is there anything that we can do to stop that? My initial response to that would be that your state representatives are the ones who ultimately dictate where money goes or where money doesn't go at the state level.
I've been told repeatedly they're not shutting down McNeil Island.
I've been told that as well.
I mean, that's conjecture here.
Yeah.
And we're assuming that they want to. We don't know if they are or not.
I believe
legislators have said, no, it's not being shut down. The CEO of McNeil Island has said, no, we're not shutting it down. We have to have, some of these people cannot be released.
Correct.
And they're going through a process to try and figure out which ones can be released.
Correct.
Something that's bothering me, a lot of this is bothering me, but the fact that this person was not from Thurston County, this person was from Kitsap County, went through a Kitsap. Yeah, there's no accountability in it right now. When they could cop shop for a friendly judge in a county on the other side of the state.
And that's a solution to a problem, right? Is making it to where, because that's how this, according to DOC, what they told me, is that basically when someone comes through McNeil Island and then they get to a point where they qualify to become an LRA, at that point in time, DOC basically picks a house, or they pick an applicant from one of these corporations that wants to make one of these houses a sex offender house, and DOC will go do an investigation on the house. So at some point last year, DOC went out to the house, and they told me they noted things like there's a ski lake, there may be children on the ski lake, this is a rural installation, there are a number of issues, there may be self-service issues, there may be internet issues. They bring power outages, they bring all of that back to a judge who then makes a decision on whether or not it's acceptable. Someone passed it. Someone said that this Tenino house was good enough for them, but as Mayor Fournier brings up, that could be a judge in King County, that could be a judge in Kitsap County, that could be a judge anywhere else that isn't actually liable for their actions here in Thurston County, where we want to take our frustrations out and vote someone else in. So I think that's an actual solution that the legislature should consider moving forward. So I'm going to take some more questions, and again, I have to repeat them. So, yes, ma'am.
I was going to say one point about it not being partisan. I
that's just you passing the buck onto somebody else because you can't answer the tough questions. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm tired of seeing, that I think all of you are tired of seeing. Like, give us the facts, give us the truth. Stop going behind our backs and saying ridiculous stuff. The difference between potentially dangerous and dangerous is the act. Any one of us are potentially dangerous sitting here. So that is the most garbage statement, and that's not partisan at all. That's just, you are elected to protect us, and you're working for us, and that's the garbage statement you have to say about that. That's where people are starting to think about partisan stuff. That's where it becomes like, no, this is garbage. So I agree, I want to protect our children. I think we all agree. I think that's where we all draw the line. But I mean, come on, we need facts from these people. We need actual people that like you that are showing up and standing here and saying, I don't want this either. And how do we fight it? You know, I mean, we all are sitting here because we all don't want this to go forward. But it sounds like, too bad, somebody else above us has made it because Inslee wants to grow plants on the island. Well, that's ridiculous. It's absurd. So no real question, just in support of that. Yeah, it's not partisan, but you know, also give us something more than potentially dangerous isn't necessarily dangerous. These are level 3 disgusting predators. They are looking to do more harm, and everybody should be aware of that.
I agree. And kind of what we went off of earlier, right, is that this is Tenino's problem for now, not tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the first. It's just the first. Of
We're the first, but there's going to be another community. It'll be Enumclaw. It'll be the suburbs of Seattle, but what will be most telling is when this goes into someone who does have a say, when it goes into their neighborhood, that will be telling to see how the response is and how quickly that person will shut down. So I want to get back. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the cease and desist letter that the Thurston County Health Department wrote. Was it delivered? Did they receive it? Do they need to respond to it? Because I want to know if that letter did anything. Is anything stopped on February 1st? Because I know you guys wrote a letter, the health department wrote a letter, they put 3 things that needed to happen, but is Supreme Living required to respond to that cease and desist letter in some fashion?
Okay, I hope everybody can hear that. It's about the letter that the county commission directed the health department to look into and respond to. And that letter basically had to do with the water supply, with the septic system, and the health requirements of food service. And it basically says they will be out of compliance if they were to open up. Now, what does that mean? That's going to take another action. If they do, I don't think they will open myself because they would face that as an issue. And in the DOC legislation that's in place, the RCWs, it basically says they have to be in compliance. And before I introduce the chair of our board, I want to do one other quick thing. We can't give you I can't tell you what might happen.
So they don't have to respond to it?
Oh, they don't have to respond. They have to fix all the violations. It's a violation notice.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what that's about.